Hello everybody, welcome back. I am Joel. This is FSN coming to you from the brand new FSN building in Seattle, Washington on the shores of the Puget Sound. Welcome back. It's week 8, so let's bring up the standings and see what we got going on. Okay, here we go. Week 8, and the playoff picture is coming into focus as we get deeper into the season with the races tight in both leagues and not too many teams very far out of the playoffs anywhere. So let's start with black and blue in the black division, where Miller Time sits at 5-2 in first place, with Slangin' S Ninjas and BDM right behind him at 4-3, then a three-way tie for last place after that. In the blue division, Funk and Groovin' sits at 6-1 with a 2-game lead over Running Late and Powder, both at 4-3. Then in Beggars and Bitches, the Beggars division, Dick Insider sits in first place at 6-1 with Chumbait behind him at 5-2, and then a three-way tie for third after that. And in the Bitches division, Pimp Saws sits at 5-2 in first place with a 5-way tie behind him for second place. So that is anybody's division, especially after Pimp Saws took his second loss of the season last week to Belligerents. Okay, so that was our standings for the week, and you may have noticed that Miller Time and Dick Insider both are in sole possession of first place in their respective divisions. So, team owner Fred reached out to FSN this week and made some bold claims. He claimed that he would win the double championship and he was the best drafter in the league because he has not made any waiver wire pickups to date, only bye-week pickups. So, he may be on to something with quarterbacks Joe Burrow and Kyler Murray both being some of the top scorers and well-rounded teams in both leagues. Having said that, he will have to contend with Chumbait this week in Beggars and Bitches, and Slangin' S Ninjas is only one game out in black and blue and gets Nick Chubb back this week. Any way you look at it, Miller Time always leads to a little Dick Insider. And speaking of bye-week pickups, our Commissioner Brad wanted to address the leagues regarding bye-week pickups, IR pickups, and the schedule and procedures and whatnot. So let's jump to him now.
Thanks, Joel. Now, as your commissioner, I'm here to serve the league. I like to model my leadership based on other successful commissioners, such as Roger Goodell. For example, I have saved all of your racist group chats and can totally pull a Gruden on your asses whenever I want. That being said, my main goal is to keep the league running smoothly, which isn't always easy when you've had 2 leagues with years of convoluted rule meetings. To get us started, let's look at the weekly schedule. Make sure to refer back to this if you have any questions on league timing. When the $5 waiver wire starts on Tuesday night, make sure to check the chat for any bids first to avoid picking up that player. If you want to join a bid, you have until 8 p.m. on Wednesday, so make sure to check the site by then. Remember, on the waiver wire, it's first come, first serve, and you are not allowed to use the app to plan your pickups in advance. For injured reserve players, once you place the player on the list, they cannot be taken off for 4 weeks. For bye week, you can place the player on taxi squad and take them off following Monday Night Football. Now, when placing a player on the taxi squad, you can only do it after you have nobody else on your roster with a game that week. If you have a player listed as out but not on your IR, this still counts and you cannot do a bye week pickup for that position. Finally, trade deadline for the NFL is next week, meaning our deadline is also next week. Officially it's November 2nd, so we'll say that next week is the last week of trades overall. Now, if any of this is confusing to you, feel free to text me with any questions. Remember, you create the rules and you only have yourself to blame. Now stay scandal free, fellas. Back to you, Joel.
Alright, so thank you for that, Commissioner, and that should clear that up for everybody unless you're a goof. So, let's jump over to a post-game press conference from Belligerents owner last week, right now. First off, I'd just like to say thanks for coming, everybody, and I'm proud of my team. They went out there, everybody did exactly what they were supposed to do. We needed a W this week, and we got it, and it was a big game for us, and I'm proud. So, I'll be taking a few questions, so let's go.
B-Hawk, FSN News. Multi-part question here. As one of the lowest scoring teams in Beggars, how are you going to overcome the 5-way tie for second? And isn't it time for your team to panic?
Well, as far as overcoming the five-way tie for second place, I've always drafted teams to be built for the stretch and for long term. I don't follow the flash in the pants guy or whatever. And so I've always been in it in the end. I always contend for a playoff spot. I always go deep, and that's how I build my teams. While other guys are falling off, I'm starting to come on here. So as far as that goes, that's how I'm going to deal with that. And you say time to panic. I just smacked around our division leader, and you're asking me if it's time to panic? No, it's not time to panic. I'm doing great, right? I'm second place, and I'm challenging for the division right now. So that's what it is. And by the way, I can't wait to smack Pimp Sobs around again in the playoffs. So no more questions. All right, FSN out there asking the tough questions. Is it time to panic? Well, we heard what Belligerence thinks about his team, but what does FSN think about it and other teams? Let's find out in this week's segment. Belligerence, with the second lowest point total in the league, you would think it was time to panic. But with A.A. Ron at quarterback and wide receivers DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, and rookie sensation Jalen Waddle, plus James Robinson and newly established workhorse Elijah Mitchell in San Francisco, that's just not the case. Coming off a big win against Pimp Sobs and in a five-way tie for second place against the rest of his shitty-ass division, he's in a great position to make a run down the stretch. Time to panic? Absolutely not. Team DK, currently tied for third, and with Lamar Jackson at quarterback and solid position players in Alvin Kamara and Amari Cooper, plus two good options at tight end with Zach Ertz and Gronk. The only thing to worry about is depth. Team DK is just one injury away from absolute disaster. Time to panic? I would say no, but definitely be nervous. Go hawk yourself. Yes, time to panic, yes. Okay, so now, the Commissioner's franchise TDS. After losing Russell Wilson early in week 5, TDS has lost 3 in a row. But with Russell Wilson having a chance to come back in week 10, if TDS can catch a win in one of his next 2 matches, he might be in a position to make a late season push with Russ back and some solid position players. But he has to stop picking up quarterbacks that get benched. Time to panic? I would say no, not yet, but it's close. Polk High sitting at 2-5 and 2 games out of the playoffs as we sit today. With Kyler Murray and Aaron Jones, plus the connection to Christian Kirk, he's got a solid core to his team. But receiver Tyler Lockett has only scored 14 points in the last 5 weeks. And to round out his team, he has OBJ, Saquon, and Julio Jones. Plus, he's carrying 2 kickers, which makes no sense at all. So, time to panic? Well, I would say yes. His receivers are trending in the wrong direction, and Murray's good, but not good enough to carry a team in our scoring system. Without a few key additions, he may find the playoffs out of reach soon. Alright, so that's our show for this week. I'd like to thank everybody for joining me. I hope you're all having as much fun with the show as I am, and we will see you again next week right here. And, as always, good luck, losers.